Welcome to the space where creators have aligned a positive and intellectual collab of open minds. For sharing and learning from one another, it's a vibe. We do also podcast on the mic. Subscribe, educators spitting bars. I guess you didn't know I'm multifaceted and humble, checking off life goals. The classroom is my comfort zone where I plant and sow seeds of knowledge, compassion, empathy, and hope. Reading is the key to unlocking your potential. Countless benefits, including cognitive and mental. Regardless of the genre, books are highly influential. Go get yours, I'll get mine. Making strides, monumental. Come rock with me and get down to this new jam. Reaching out to my friends, I had a very simple plan. Educate the masses through books and life lessons. It's the grand slam. I'm out. Tala Falava and welcome to the Reads with Rosa podcast. On today's show, we are joined by an author from the beautiful Pacific island of Kiribati. She is a survivor of domestic violence and she is here to share her personal account as an asylum seeker and to amplify the voices of other detainees whose stories and experiences are so often misunderstood. Her story was featured on the Pacific Women's Network, and currently she heads Thrive, an international women's group promoting healthy living and gratitude. It is my honor to welcome to the show Grace James. Woohoo! How are you, sis? Welcome.
Thank you so much, Rosa, for having me. And hi, guys. As Rosa mentioned earlier, I'm Grace James, and I'm actually originally from Kiribati. I was born and raised there. I'm pretty sure most of you guys know where that is. It's somewhere in the Pacific Islands. And I moved to the States to seek asylum about a decade ago now. And yeah, I'm just so excited. This is actually my first podcast interview ever. So thank you so much, Rosa, for for this opportunity that you have for me to be able to share my story. So yeah, I'm excited to share with you guys.
It's like I said, it is such an honor to be your first podcast. I'm absolutely stoked to have you here. I have so many questions. I have so many questions. You are one strong and resilient human being. That's all I have to say.
Wow, thank
Yeah.
you so much. Thank you so much. You're so sweet to say that, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess before getting into your book, tell us about Kiribati. Like, what is it that people don't know about your beautiful homeland?
Sounds good. So yeah, Kiribati is a very small island, and I think I can just say that in a way, like if you drive, and just to give you like an idea of like how big the island is, and this is just like for one of the islands because obviously it consists of few islands. But the one that I actually born and raised at is called Tarawa, which is the main capital of the islands. And if you drive from the other end to the other, it takes about like, I believe like an hour or even less than an hour. So that's how small it is. And just one straight road. There's no street name or anything like that. And that's one thing that I remember when I first moved here and I was trying to post a letter to my mom. And the lady at the post office over here, she took the letter. She was like, "Are you sure you don't miss out like a street name?" Or because I just mentioned like just the city name and the state, and that's it. Obviously the name of the country as well. But she was like, "Are you missing something? Are you sure it's gonna go to to this person?" And I was like, "Yeah, we don't have a street name."
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that's the thing that's a lot of people, they always find amazed that we do not have a street, a street number or anything like that. We don't have a house number like that. But yeah, it's just a small island, and I guess the main food that we grew up with is just mainly seafood, mainly fish. Meat we pretty much have to import it from other countries because we don't provide meat. And what else? People enjoy outdoor activities, like very simple, like we do have a cinema, like a theater, very small, only one on the island. And it's just it only like lasts for like few years, and then they stop for some reason. Then obviously we don't have that. So the main activity or like entertainment is just it's pretty simple. Like mostly just dancing. We have like nightclubs and stuff like that, or like
Mm.
the community. We have like a how do you explain that? Um, like we call this in Kiribati manete, where it's like a big house, and it's a place where it gathers all the community member around that area,
Like a
and then
community center or something
yeah,
like
yeah,
that,
yeah,
like
like
a
that, right? Yes,
town
yeah.
hall or something?
Yes, yeah, you said the perfect word for it. It's like
Mm.
a community center, and it's like that's where we always do. Like I remember growing up, I we always have this. We call it like a social night where we have a music, and then we pay money and we'll do like okay, I asked this person to get up and dance, so, like kind of like
Yeah.
a dare thing, or maybe just like to pay money just for everybody to like dance.
Mm.
So those kind of like activities and entertainments that we had is like very simple. It's just like,
Mm.
and usually it's involves like dancing and music.
Yeah,
So
I mean, you love to dance, right? You love
yeah.
to dance. Sorry, of course we're talking cultural dancing, right? I know people
Yes.
are like, yeah, like you clubs or what? Of course, yes. Grace probably loves to go clubbing, but I just wanted to bring up the fact that
Hmm.
cultural dancing you love to do.
Yes.
So is that where your love for dancing comes from? Like the community
Hmm.
gathering and things like that, family
Yeah.
gatherings.
Yes, I think that's how I grew up, and the things that I normally enjoy when I was young, it's just like become part of me. And I just like, I think it's just because I enjoy so much with like my friends, people that I'm close with. So it's just a thing that kind of reminds me of those days. And at the
Mm,
same time, it's just that I enjoy
mm,
a lot. Like when I dance, it's just, yeah, for me, it's like therapy, but mostly like it's just a thing that reminds me of the good things and the good times that I have with my friends, with my family. And
mm,
like you said, it's a cultural thing for obviously a lot of us as Pacific Islanders. We
mm,
all have our own traditional dance, and it's just something that we are proudly to share, with
mm,
people, that are not from our culture. And it's just something that it shows who we are and what we believe in, and so
mm,
that's why I think that's pretty much where I get, oh, like how I or how my how do you say this? I guess that's where I started to like enjoy dancing,
mm.
because I just I'm used to it as something that I
Well, it's
enjoy.
natural, right? It comes naturally
I hope,
to
but yeah,
you.
yeah, it is obviously first time. Yeah, I remember I remember my very first experience dancing the traditional, like my own, island traditional dance. I remember that time I was like, it was during, I believe it was like
Mm,
Easter, and I was growing up. I was Catholic, and my mom, my grandmother, they're very into church, and we have like this thing where during Easter time, where all like different community they have to come together, and it's like a it's not like a
mm,
competition, but they have to perform, like, from each community they will have like a dance performance. And my mom, she's a never she actually doesn't dance at all, like
mm,
she never danced. And I guess that's why she saw like how dancing really, it's like a fun thing to do. And I think she doesn't want us to miss that part, and I think she
mm,
trying to enrich that in our lives, like while we're young, and trying to make sure that we have to have that growing up.
right.
And so, which is something that I'm grateful for, because obviously the first time I was like, I don't like this. It's like a lot of people. I am so shy.
Mm,
I like to call myself like introvert, and I
mm,
always, scared of things that when it involves people that I don't know. But I'm so happy that I was able my mom was able to not force me but kind of push me, like, hey,
Mm,
like, if you do it like maybe more times, then it's not really a bad, a bad thing, and you can actually like enjoy it. But yeah, like I remember those few first times, it was like super hard, and I really, I know like I hated it just because I just don't like other people watching me doing it. But then
mm,
eventually, when I, as I grew up and I continued to do it, I become like more comfortable and more,
mm,
I felt like, okay, I'm more like confident, in myself in doing this. And I just enjoy it. I think it's just because I know like this is my culture, and it's just a fun thing to do and to share to other people. So yeah, from there,
mhm.
I started to do and practice other like Pacific island dancing as well. And I love it. I know like
Mm.
I'm not a best dancer, but it's when it comes to dance, I was like, I enjoy it. I'm just gonna do it
Yeah.
anyways, even if I know like I'm not the best dancer out there. But I think that's a great thing about us
Yes.
Pacific Islanders, like when it comes to music, like we just like
Yeah.
we just wanna vibe with it and just to
Yeah.
enjoy the music. So yeah, that's
That's
that's pretty much
yes.
how it.
You're absolutely right. Just vibe with it and just go with it. Very, very
Yeah.
cool. I love that. Um, because you mentioned because there are other islands, but the island that you grew up on, was it was it that when young people got to a certain age, would they like when it got to college or university, were many of you going off like off to other countries to study? Like was it common? Like does that yeah.
Yes, it is common. Well, right now maybe it might be different because
Mm,
they established like a university. It's called
is there?
a USB, University of the
Mm,
South Pacific over there. They have a bigger campus, but around those time, I remember growing up, it was like they don't have really enough major courses to teach at that,
mm,
university. So that's why it's really no option for us to stay and continue after high school. So
mm,
pretty much we have to either you have to get a scholarship to be able to go abroad and continue your studies, or maybe your family has to fund you. If you don't able to get
uh,
a scholarship, then your family will use their own money, and for you to be able to go outside the country to
mm,
continue your study. But yeah, the every high school that we have, the majority of them is in Kiribati. We do have other high school as well on other outer islands, but the
mm,
major ones, or like the majority of them is in Tarawa.
mm,
That's where I grew up, and that's like the capital of Kiribati.
mm.
So yeah.
So I mean, you studied abroad. You studied abroad when you were. I mean, you studied and traveled abroad. Through part of your life journey, you had those opportunities: study abroad, travel, and return to Kiribati. Um, every time you came back to Kiribati, had you changed? What I mean is, uh, you had a broader uh, view of the world, or your mindset had changed a bit. Like, what was that like going away, but then always coming back, and then going away and coming back?
Yeah, I actually, when I went to Fiji, that was like the first country that I went to outside Kiribati. And when I came back, yeah, there are so many things that I see it in a very different perspective. I
Mm,
think after I've been to Fiji, I realized that, oh wow, we don't have mountains, like we don't have horses. Like there's like a lot of things that we do not have, that
mm,
other countries have. And also like in terms of like housing, like everything is so different. And I felt like maybe it's just like for some reason it became smaller. Like I know my island is
mm,
small, but when I went outside and I came back, I feel like wow, I start to realize that it's actually like small, and that compared to other countries, it's just like very small. Like even like the way house is built is, like
Mm,
I think at that time it's like the highest is like double story and that's it, like we do not have elevator. Like this is a lot of things that I was like,
mm,
we do not have these things, like that was like my first time to experience it when I went to Fiji, like the elevator. Um,
mm,
what else that I was able to to realize that it was just us, it's not others. It's not a thing for, it's not a same thing for everybody out there, it's just something that is different with us, you know.
mm,
Um, yeah, I think our agriculture for sure. We do not have enough animals, I would say, because when I was in Fiji, there's just a lot of animals that I never seen in my life before. When I got, it's like, wow, there's a cow, there's like a horse, it's like, yeah. So those things, like, I was so amazed at, and I realized that there's just so many things that we do not have, back home. But at the same time, there are so many things that I experienced, like living in Fiji is very nice, a very beautiful country. But at the same time, there's just some places where it's just not safe.
mm,
Like sometimes I just don't feel safe. Going around, especially like nighttime and stuff like that. And that's like something that I never feel when I was home. Like
mm,
when I went back, I was like, wow, like this is like it's freedom. Like it's very, still, yeah, you're cautious because obviously, you just never know like somebody, but it's very different how I feel for my safety. When it comes to safety wise, I would say
mm,
Kiribati, I feel like I have more freedom to like go anywhere like I want, than when I was in Fiji. And what
mm,
else? I think also like homeless part, like I saw in Suva downtown, there's like a lot of homeless people,
mm,
and I that's one thing that it was very foreign to me because I never see homeless back home. There's like maybe there's some people like they're like alcoholic and they just want to be there, but it's
mm,
very different with like a lot of people just like in a certain area where they just don't have home, and that's their home, like on the streets. And those are the things that really gave me like different perspective, and I get to realize like how grateful I am to live in a place where I don't have to see those kind of people, and just you just feel bad for them because they don't have what you have pretty much.
mm.
So
Do you
yeah.
still have a lot of family back in the homeland, back in Kiribati, or have many of your family members moved overseas? Like,
Yeah, my the majority of my family is still back home, but
mm,
as right now, my younger sister, she's in school in Fiji now with her
mm,
family, and my other sister, she's in the other Kiribati island is called Christmas Island, which is like kind of isolated away from
mm,
all the Kiribati island. And then my brother, he's there in New Zealand.
mm,
So he moved there with his family like few years ago. So yeah, it's just the majority, my parents and my other siblings, they
mm.
still back in Kiribati.
And when was the last time you went back to Kiribati?
Mm.
Or is it before you uh, arrived in the US?
I arrived in the US in 2014.
Mm,
2014 or 15. I think it's 2014. Yeah,
mm,
2014. It's what between 2014 to 15.
mm.
So, and when I came, that was the last time
Time that you were
yeah. So since then, I haven't go
haven't
back
gone back.
home. So it's been almost 10 years
10
now.
years.
Yeah,
Wow.
I know. It sometimes it feels like wow, time
Time
flies really
flies,
fast.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, I guess let's talk about the longest wait. Okay, so let's talk about your book. If you are watching or listening, click the links in the bio. You can buy the book on Kindle. You can get it on paperback. There'll be links in there for you to connect with Grace via social media. Check out her YouTube channel. Everything about her book. Click on the links and get connected, everyone. Um, you need to read her story. We are going to talk about that now. So it's called The Longest Wait. Can you tell us, yeah, what is your book about?
Thank you so much, Rosa. So yeah, the book is pretty much about. So it started off when I was in detention center. It's an immigration detention center here in the
Mm,
U.S., specifically in Irvine, California. That's where I was detained. And it's funny because growing up, I never English wasn't really my favorite
mm,
subject, so I don't really read or like I don't even like writing at all,
mm,
but that experience when I was inside, I was able to meet a lot of women who came to the US, who crossed the border, and the majority of them, they never been to school before, and their story is like how their journey just to go to the border is,
mm,
I mean, I was amazed, I was sad at the same time because they had to go through like so much, and also at the same time I felt like I was going through a lot with the things that I personally experienced in my life before that. But after I learned their story, I realized that wow, like they just made my story like it's nothing, compared to theirs. But still,
mm,
these women, they just have so much hope, and they're just very resilient in their own ways. And I felt like I want to share, I want to share the not just their story, but also like just being our experience inside detention center, where like a lot of people do not really understand.
mm,
And it's like a lot of people, they mention they know so much about, people crossing the border and stuff like that, but like the process after they cross the
right.
border is where like they really do not really understand about the things that going on inside detention center. And also like my book is basically about my my experience, like
Mm,
why I left my island in the first place and why I ended up here and why I seek
mm,
asylum. So it's just like the experiences that I had to go through. But more importantly, I just want to share like how I was able to overcome those, those things, and what are the things that I had to do to be able to get out of those kind of bad, situation, or let's say in my case abusive
mm,
relationship, which I think, it's so sad because at the same time, and this I'm just gonna speak for myself and my own
mm,
personal experience, but I felt like in my island, domestic violence is just like it's normalized to the stage where like whatever you're going through as a woman, like if your husband beat you up or something like that, is it doesn't really seem like a big deal anymore. Like it's like a
mm,
normal thing, like oh they just have a fight or something, and it doesn't even mean that even though you're going through so much that you still have to stay for your family, as a
mm,
woman, as someone, as a traditional woman, that's like your responsibility. You just have like, you have to take it, and,
mm,
like that's your calling, you're a wife and whatever it comes to you. And if your husband treats you bad, you have to take it because that's your responsibility as a wife, as a woman. For me, that's like how I see how society,
mm,
works, I guess, in my island. I feel like it's it's what you're going through as a woman is like not really, maybe it's important, but like they don't see it as a reason for you to try and get out of that situation. Like
mm,
it's not a right reason for you to leave. Like you have to take whatever it comes
mm,
to you because that's really like your responsibility as a wife. And so
mm,
that's really the reason why I wanted to share, because I sorry, I feel like there's so many women, and even those the year that I left my home country, within those years, even before that year, it was just a lot of women like lost their lives, and I'm
Mm,
not even like making this up. It's just like a lot of women that they die because their husband, and
mm,
I felt like this is like it's a real problem, and it's like it's a life of someone else, and it's not something that you can just say like it's okay, just stay, just stay for more, or like it's gonna change or something like that, or like if you don't stay, that makes you like a weak woman, or you
mm,
cannot take it. That's why you just wanna go to the easy way just to get out of that relationship. But really, it's 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 more about like, do I really, is this the kind of relationship that it's worth for me to stay in, and also
mm,
like to see the other person, or your other half, your husband, if he really do that because he loves you, like those kind of
mm,
questions that I guess a lot of people, especially people who do not experience domestic violence, I think, sorry, I think they don't think, because they never experienced that abusive, you know, that abusive relationship, that they don't really consider those things.
mm,
They don't really consider like how painful it is that you have to stay, especially when you do not deserve
mm,
those things in the first place. And I don't think anybody deserve to be abused for any reasons at all,
mm. Yeah, you know what was in your book? There's that moment where when you arrive back in America and they check your, they're checking your passport and everything, and then they take you, they detain you, right? And then there's that moment where you talk about they're trying to get a flight for you back. And I was wondering about that moment where you're like, the flight back, or you tell your story to the agent, to the worker, and then they're like, okay, but you're going to be locked up. How quickly did you make up your mind
Oh
to?
yeah. Yeah, that part, it was, yeah. I think it's funny, like when you're going through so much that sometimes it just make other things seems easier. Like all of a
Mm,
sudden the things that it might be risky or it might be dangerous, but because I in my abuse relationship, I
mm,
actually like almost um lost my life like few times, like not
mm,
just like one or two, like few times where I felt like I was gonna die.
mm,
And so for me at that point, I was like, there's no other situation that will be more dangerous than this. And so
mm,
when I was given a choice, like, um are you gonna stay? Because if you're gonna stay, you're gonna be in jail pretty much,
mm.
right? Because you have to wait for the judge to decide if you're eligible for this, for asylum. I was like, yes.
Yeah, you're
I'm
like,
Oh yeah, that's
yeah,
for for weird reason, I jail become like a better and safer choice for me at that time. I was like, I don't think
yeah,
really like to try and think about it,
yeah,
first, because I knew what I went through, and I knew that at least that one I knew for sure what's gonna happen. The other
mm,
one maybe is dangerous, but at least I'm not really too sure how dangerous it is. But for the other one, oh yes,
mm,
it was too dangerous that I was willing to do anything else but that. So
mm,
so yeah, I was for me, I realized that to be safe, I have to stay, even if it means that I have to stay in jail. And of course, I never been to jail before
mm,
in my life, and I really never think that I was going to be in jail or in a place like that ever
mm,
in my life.
mm,
But at that point, I was like, if that's the other choice of me not choosing going back, then I'll choose it anytime.
it's the safest option for you, like where you
Yes.
could, yeah,
Right. And it's crazy because, obviously I was like, I know jail, like obviously it's not like a safe place or like,
Mm,
a good place to be in. Especially the fact that, it's not my country, it's like in a different country, and then it's a jail at the same time. So I knew like it's not gonna be like an easy place to be in, or it will be a challenge place to be in. But like I mentioned
mm,
before, when I knew for myself that what I will go back to is very dangerous, and I already experienced that already, I was
mm,
like, okay, I'm going for the other choice,
mm,
regardless of what it is, pretty much at that point. So yeah.
mm. It's interesting you mentioned when you were talking about, you weren't really a reader, you didn't really like writing, but on your first day at the center, at the asylum center, you were given a book, a handmade book, and the suggestion was you should write your experiences in here. And you know on your YouTube channel, like it just there's evidence, like stories, papers written written down, stories that have been written down by detainees, your story written down. Like, I just thought, man, that right there was the beginning of that next part of what was to become this journey of like self-discovery. It was to become a journey of like shared like hope, fight for justice, um friendships, making those connections with these other women. I mean,
Definitely, yeah.
tell us about that. Like, like you said, you're not really a writer, but now you get given this book. And yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. Like every time I thought about it, like I thought about my life before I came, and even like before that writing came about, I was like, there's no way I was gonna, I was gonna write something at all.
Mm,
And but then like you mentioned, it's funny because that same night when I arrived at the facility, that lady who came and she was like, oh hey, like, and I will just kind of explain more about this, because
mm,
maybe a lot of people do not know why this handmade book like really means a lot to me. Because
mm.
inside detention center, those things considered contraband. Like
Ah,
we do not allow to have like anything that's stable with the stable, like
right.
yeah, you cannot have like books that are not approved outside the facility to have it on your property.
Mm.
But then obviously, these women with those free time, sometimes they want to do something, and
Yeah, they make
especially
it
when it comes.
create.
Right. They were so creative, and even though they know like, okay, this is, it's contraband, but if it's something that gonna help me to better my situation, they just do it anyways. And
Mm,
so this lady, I'm pretty sure she spent a lot of time trying to, get all the stuff pieces, everything to make that handbook for herself. And then when she saw me, I came that night, and then she came. She was like, "Hey, like I feel like you need this more than I do," and I just feel like,
mm,
wow, like it feels like that was the starting. That was like the starting of a, a journey that I
yeah.
knew is gonna be like better, and I knew that I'm gonna learn a lot from this experience. So it
Mm,
was I guess that was like the the beginning of my writing
mm,
journey, is to start from that handmade book that lady is very kind enough was very kind
mm,
enough to give me at that night. And I thank goodness I used it that same night, because it was so hard for me to like sleep right away, because obviously I'm in this new environment, this new jail with like surrounded by like 50 other like strangers, or like women that I never knew in my life. And I had no idea what's going to be like tomorrow, like what are the things that we're supposed to do in this place. So it's just like a lot of things that for sure I was worried about when I first came in. But that handmade book, I took it and I decided, you know what, I'm just gonna use this as my gratitude journal, because at that point, that was like the only the only
Mm.
way that I can see things in a positive way. And also because I knew that I do not have any other choice not to be in this place. Like there's no way I can choose to be outside here. So I might
Mm.
as well, since I'm here, I'm just gonna try and do my best to do things, to look things in a better way so that I can have this experience as an opportunity, more like an obstacle or like a challenge thing,
Mm.
and so yeah, so from that day forward, I just every night before I sleep, I wrote inside that journal. Speaking of the journal, this is the journal. So I
Mm.
I pretty much like printed out like all the
Wow.
writings that I have. Yeah, and sometimes if I go, went through some of the pages, I was like, wow, like those are the things that that we did, and it's like a reminder, for me of the things that I went through, and it helps me to appreciate my life more right now that I
Mm.
don't, that I'm not in that place anymore. So yeah.
You're a survivor. You're a
Thank you.
survivor. You know, I was wondering if you could share a little bit because, when you're talking about the experiences in the jail, in the asylum centers, what was your day? Was it like a regular daily routine, like every day? Like, can you take us through that? Because what I'm wondering is what you did, what was a normal day, a normal regular day, but also where does the help come from in terms of your case? So this is my normal daily routine, but are there people coming to visit so that they can help you with your case so that you can get out of there or no?
Yeah, so our day-to-day routine is pretty much we have to wake up like around 4 a.m., and then that's when they actually do like a attendance,
Mm.
roll call to make sure like everybody's there. And then after that we go straight to breakfast. So we ate breakfast like around 4:30, yeah, like
Wow.
before 5. Yeah, it's pretty early because that jail that I was in, it's kind we share with the male detainees on the other
Oh.
side. So I guess they're trying to make sure that they don't eat their breakfast like super late as well. So that's why we have to do it like
Mm.
early that time. And then after breakfast, we came back and then we have a chores to do. So we have like either we mop the place or we scrub like all the beds. Like it has to be everything has to be clean. Like by 10 when we finish cleaning, everything has to be like clean,
Mm.
inside the facility. So we do our chores and then after that we don't really have anything. So we finish like around maybe 8 or maybe earlier than that, like 7:30 or 7.
Mm.
And the cleaning is like rotates between us, so it's not like a everyday thing.
Mm.
You do your chores like every other day because it's like a
Mm.
lot of us and it's like only 6 or 7 chores to do every day. And then after that, after we finish, then we can go back to bed because obviously
Mm.
there's no way to go. The yard is still closed. It's too
Mm.
early for them to open the yard for us. So after chores, we pretty much can go back to bed, or we can sometimes, if the sheriff are kind enough, they will turn on the TV,
Oh,
and then
okay.
we can see like morning show and stuff like that. And but if not, if they don't have TV on, then most of the time we just be on our bed because
Mm.
that's the only place that we're allowed to do. We cannot go
Mm.
to other women in their bunks. It's like you get a write up if you do it.
Mm.
So pretty much you're done your chores, then you go back to your
Mm.
bunk, and then just you can do whatever. You can write or you can sleep. You can do whatever you want. And then after that, when they open the yard, which is like around 10, so we don't have anything to do. It's up to you at that point, whatever you want
Mm.
to do on your bed, anything but on your bed. And then after that, they will open the yard like around 10:30 or 11, so we can go outside,
Mm.
go outside the yard. And after that, when lunch came like around usually 12 or sometimes 1. Sometimes they can leave the yard open for us. It really depends to whoever
Mm.
is on duty. Some sheriff, they're very nice. They will just keep the yard open like majority of the day. And some they will close
Mm.
it right away and by the time lunch comes. And then after lunch, then that's when like the day room is open where you can go to the other bunks, you can play cards on the table, you can call. We have like 4 what do you call payphone, like,
Mm.
yeah. So then that's your time as well. That's when you actually call your friends or your family, if
Mm.
they can come to visit. And the visit, we only have it on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And
Mm.
it's lasts for 30 minutes. And it's like the same thing like where jail, like they have like that,
Yeah,
class
yeah.
blogging section. And also we're not allowed to, to touch,
No.
or yeah, we're not allowed to touch or hug or anything. um what else? And those are the times where we get visits. It can be anyone, as long as someone that knows we call it a booking number. That's
Mm.
really like our identity. When we were inside, they use our booking number. And then so whoever knows it and they just come, okay, I want to see this person, they can come.
Mm.
During weekends we have visits, and the visitors, they have to know your booking number to be able to visit you. So if they don't know, they cannot come and visit you, just to say your name. If they know
Mm.
you, but if they don't know either your
Number.
booking number or your
Mm.
alien number, that's what they call it, alien number, then they cannot see you.
Mm.
And yeah, so you get to be visited, and it's only one person, like one visitor at a time. So if your
Mm.
friend comes, and if your other cousin doesn't know and they came after, they will send home because you already have your visit a day, because
Mm.
it's only. And we have Friday through Sunday. So that's pretty much our routine after lunch. Well, the shower is on because they
Mm.
limits the time of the shower. So they would turn on the shower before lunch, like right after breakfast as well, like after the chores. When we finish, sometimes they turn on the shower so we can shower before lunch. And they will keep the shower on for like 1 or 2 hours. So like
Mm.
we have to go shower fast because it's a lot. It's a
Mm.
lot of us. And then after that we have lunch. And then after lunch they will turn on the shower again for another hour before our dinner. And so our lunch is very close with our dinner time because we have lunch sometimes around 1,
Mm.
and then our dinner is 4. So that's like just like 3 hours before, like in between.
Mm.
And because of that, I guess like a lot of us is always ended up hungry.
Mm. Oh,
I
because it's
think that,
after dinner, a
yeah.
long wait.
Yes, and I think, yeah, that's what I also include in my book, like a
Mm.
chapter where it's like about like when like about hungry times, because pretty much our schedule for a meal, it's just they're pretty close to each other. That's, sometimes we go to dinner with a very full stomach from
Mm.
lunch still, and that's why we don't really eat anything, because we're still full from lunch. But then after that, when we came back, that's it. We do not have snacks.
Mm.
There's no like, oh, hey, I'm hungry, I want to eat something. We don't have
Mm.
something like that. So, obviously, people will try to find ways to save, food, which is, you know, again, it's a contraband, and we're not allowed to save food from our lunch, or unless it's something that you actually purchase, which is
Mm.
called a commissary, where you can purchase from I guess the cafe, or like a book, or like a store from the jail
Mm.
where you can purchase your stuff. Those are the only food that you can keep at your property, something that you actually purchase, but not the things that you receive from the facility. So like
Mm.
your lunch bag, the fruit that comes with it, anything, you cannot save it. If they find out, if they see in your property that you keep them past the lunchtime, you would get a write-up, you know. And so
Wow.
like there's really like no food allowed. If you do not have money, you pretty much most of the time you go through the night with like empty stomach, or like not empty stomach, but obviously like after that very
Mm,
early dinner, like you're like hungry the whole the
mm,
whole night, and you don't have anything until the next day, you know. So those are just the little things
yeah.
that might seem like, oh, it's not a big deal, but really
Yeah.
when you do not have anything on you, it
Mm,
really a big deal, you know. And some people, they can't even go to sleep, they just go back
mm,
and forth. So we have a fountain, you know, and so that one is just like, you know, just to trying to get rid of that stomach,
mm,
you know, it's gross, you know, like it's just like making noises because obviously you're hungry, but there's really nothing else than the fountain if you don't
mm.
have money to purchase your own food. So yeah, those are the the few
Yeah.
things that we had to experience.
And then how did for your particular case, like, did they assign you a lawyer? Like, do they assign people to advocate for you, or do they give you a list and you have to make the call and find someone?
Yeah, so when it comes to our court and our lawyer, you have to find it yourself.
Oh
So most
wow.
of the time, they will give you the list of like pro
Mm,
bono lawyers, which obviously they already have like thousands cases already. So those numbers for me are just like, did they even give in out to
mm,
like or even if they knew that there's no way these people will answer their calls. And it's true, like my friends, because lucky for me, you know, I was able to have someone help me, and I was able to have a lawyer to help me with my case. But then the majority of other women, you know, they don't have a lawyer, and they just have that list of pro bono lawyers with their phone number, which obviously when they call, it's just it never go through at all. Like,
wow.
or even if they answer the call, they will be like, I'm sorry, like I already have like thousands of cases on my hands right now, I cannot take any more cases. So there's really no lawyer for these, at least when I was there was like no lawyer at all for like free lawyers for them. And then of course
Mm,
we're not considered, obviously we're not citizens, so we're not entitled for like free, you know, lawyer. So
mm,
either you have to represent yourself, or if you're lucky enough for a pro bono lawyer to represent you if they have time, which it's really never uh it never happened.
mm,
so so yeah, it was a simple thing that they, you know, that they don't have yet. It really affects them in the
mm,
long way, because if they don't file this document on time, obviously, then it's their time is gonna prolong inside the
mm,
jail. So it's just it seems unfair, but you know, it's I guess it is what it is. But
mm,
that's what happened if they don't have a lawyer. They just have to represent themselves. And then again, it's 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 here in the States, so everything has to be in English. And then the
mm,
majority of these women, they never like go to school in their life before. So
mm,
it's very sad, to be honest. Like it's very sad to witness all those things, you know, that actually
mm,
happen to, you know, people that become like your family, like your friends, but they're more like family at that point because you just spent a lot of time with them, and then they
mm.
had to go through that just because they don't have money, or you know, they just don't know anybody to help them.
You mentioned, for many of the detainees, English is not the first language. You were teaching English, or you were helping teach English because you were a high school teacher
Yes.
before you left your homeland. So that came into good use, and that was another way to connect and share stories
Mhm.
with your fellow detainees. Uh, yeah, tell us about
Yeah.
that experience.
Yeah, well, thank you. And yes, you're right. When I find out that I won't be able to have my first court until like another 3 months, you know, at that time I was like, okay, like this is a long time to wait. And it's just, I feel like I'm not really doing a lot, you know,
Mm,
that much inside that place. But then when I realized like my friends, they always like they they always want to try to learn. They just, they don't know the language. And for me at the same time, I want to talk with them, and it's very hard for me to talk and really like trying to connect with them because of that language barrier. And that's when I was like, okay, like I understand like most of them they never been to school before, which something that I realized how blessed I am that I was able to have that, to have the education that I need. And so I decided, okay, I'm gonna start like to learn Spanish, to learn like the basic Spanish, so I can be at least like trying to communicate in some ways with them.
Mm.
And also because I realized like, okay, when I have that idea, like what am I going to do? And you're right, I always I try to think of something that, something that I actually enjoy, and something that I at least I know and I already done it before. And
Mm.
that's the first thing that came, like I was like, okay, maybe I'll teach these women, because I learned that they never been to school before, which I was like, wow, like I never know like this is a thing in these countries. They grew up, most of them they got married so young, and most of them they just they help with the farm. They have like a big farm, and they help out with their family, so they don't really go to school because they have responsibility at home already. And so for me at that point, I was like, okay, maybe I can start to teach them. And also I was like, okay, it's also good for me, because then I can push myself to kind
Mm.
of like, okay, I really need to learn Spanish. So that's how it started. I started learning like basic, Spanish. I have this friend, or friend is very kind enough to send her like a Spanish English like book. But she hardly used it, because that's the problem. She doesn't know like how to read, or she doesn't even know how to pronounce those things. So she was like, hey, like if you want to learn Spanish, I have this book, maybe
Mm.
it's better for you to use it. So I started learning Spanish from that book, and just like by talking to them, like if I don't know a word for this, I'll be like, okay, like Spanish, I would point something, and they're okay. So they help me in that way. And finally I was like, okay, like after like a few weeks, I was like, okay, maybe I know like the basic, to like at least to teach them the basic things that I know already in Spanish,
Mm.
and just kind of like translate it in English. So I started off with like the things inside the facility, and what are the things that they actually, the phrases that they need to learn while they're inside, because I know that's like, I feel like that's a good place to start for them, because it's going to help them to practice it right away. And so, yeah, I started off with like two of my friends at first, and then before I know it, it was like a lot of a
Mm.
lot of them, decided to join. And it's just a humbling, like a humbling experience for me, because I was like, wow, like, even for them, like I don't have to try hard to like, hey,
Mm.
like you need to learn this. Like they have that desire to learn, and they felt like, okay, like living in this state, this is what we need. And if we
Mm.
want to, if this is a country where we want to live in, it seems to be an obvious, thing to learn, first. And so yeah, that's how the teaching experience started. I started teaching them very basic English, obviously, because me too, I'm still like learning English. But for the basic, I felt like those are the things that they never know before. So I felt like, okay, these are the things that I'm gonna start with. We actually started like from ABC, like
Mm.
because they never know those things before. And I was like, wow, like the things that we take granted at home, like, oh, I don't want to go to school, yet there are these people that they just have this, desire, and, what do you, this, how do you say, this just like they just have this desire of learning,
Mm.
just never have that opportunity, in their life. And it's also an experience where I realized that, being able to have education in our lives, especially like free education, I think that's like the biggest blessing and privilege to have. Like
Mm.
that's one of the things that I realized after I
Mm.
lived with these women, and it's just kind of helped me in a lot of ways to really embrace the things that I know and the things that I learned in my life. And I guess
Mm.
that's how writing came about as well. Like, even though I was like, I don't really, I don't think that I'll be able to like even be able to write 2 pages, like that's for me, that's a lot of pages. I cannot even like complete like a half like a half page, because that's like a long paragraph for me, and I'm just gonna keep writing the same words over and over again.
Mm.
But yeah, I think from that teaching experience, it's just, it kind of helped me to really embrace and to not take granted of my education
Mm.
opportunities, that I already had in my life. So
Yeah. You know, being able to share life experiences with your friends while being inside, and now you've written. Now we have the book. Um, I was wondering, like, have you been able to keep in touch with any of, it's probably difficult, but have you been able to keep in touch? Like, do they know that you've written a book? Like, yeah.
yeah, it's funny that you asked that, because I was just talking to my friend earlier, about these women, and I was just like, oh, maybe because my launch, I know the book is already out there, but
Mm,
my official, maybe I would say that that term, but my
mm,
book launch party is going to be this coming Tuesday, which
mm,
is like today's what, it's Thursday, so it's like in few days from now, I'm
mm,
gonna like officially launch the book. And I was thinking about creating like a specific table. I don't know if I'm actually gonna do it, but it's just something that came to mind. Like, okay, maybe I can create like a table where I can display like their pictures, and where they are right now, and what's, like
mm,
they have families and their kids. But yeah, I still connect with these women, and they it's funny because they also willing to share their story as part of
mm,
my book launch. They send me a video. So during my book launch, since maybe probably you might not be able to be there
mm,
in person, so I might as well just share with you. It's not gonna hurt anything. But yeah, so during the launch, I'm planning to to display their video where they actually share the experience inside.
mm,
And yes, most of these women, I still talk with them. Some of them I went to Zumba with. It's one of them, and then one of them I'm gonna go to this Disneyland with her on Monday, which is like the end of this month. So it's a lot of them, that especially those that live in California.
mm,
I still like find time to be able to hang out with them. And I don't think I'll be able to like forget
mm,
these women. It's sometimes it's funny. I felt like the women or people that you're going through like the most like challenging and just like the hardest, the hardest days of your life, and you're going through together. I just felt like that connection is like, it's very special. Like, it's
mm,
just, and just not that, it's just like going through it together, like we're trying to be there for each other, because that's like the only way on how we can go through our situation, or our yeah, just our situation in general. It's always good to know that you have someone else is there for you, and also knowing that you are there for someone else. So
mm,
yeah, they I still connect with these women, and they still play a lot of great role in this book.
mm,
They are so excited when I told them, and how they share their own experience, and just it's always, it's a good reminder for me when I saw them, and especially as they talked about our experience inside, it just brought back those memories. And I also noticed that it's not the same for everybody.
mm,
Our experience inside, some of my friends, my very, very close friends, they just don't want to look back at that experience
mm,
at all. Like, that was like for them it was like the worst and loneliest experience of their lives, and they just don't want to be
Mm,
reminded of it, you know. So that's why I'm like, I'm grateful that I was not able to to have that, you know, to have that feeling and to see it that way, but to see it
mm,
the other way. Like I saw
mm,
that experience as something that I will always be grateful for, because it just helped me to see life in a very better and very great, you know, grateful and more positive perspective, just because of that experience.
mm.
So yeah.
Um, since leaving, since being out, how how are you? How have you been since being out? And yeah, how are you doing?
Thank you. So yeah, being out, I got a job. My first job that I got when I first came out, I was working
Mm,
for a property management office. You know, it was like through a friend, but then after that, I talked to my friend whom I met inside detention center, and she was working at the airline industry at that time. And
mm,
she was like, "Hey, they're hiring if you want to try." So I tried out, and I was able to get a job with the Philippine Airlines. And so I worked with them for like few years, and then I transferred to American Airlines. So
mm,
now I still work for. I just started with American Airlines actually, so it's been like almost 3 years now. So yeah, it's been a lot of learning experience, you know, and it's just like a journey that it feels like for me, I know it's really challenging, especially moving to this country by yourself and, you know, not having your family with you, and not having that kind of supporting system that you used to have back home, and now you're in this foreign country by your own. You just have to figure things out on your own. But for me, it's been, you know, learning experience. And yes, I you know, it's hard. I would say it's very, very challenging, you know, to it's just, I feel like if you live in this country, you just have to work, you know, everything
mm,
you have to pay for, and it's not cheap to live in California. So sometimes I feel like, okay, wow, do I need to work my whole life to be able to pay my bills and everything? But at the same time, it's very, very nice to live in California. You know, there's a beach right here, the weather, there's no snow or something like that. So everything, you know, everything here, it's nice. I'm still continue with my course because I haven't finished, and I think that's pretty much how my friends ended up with that title, the longest wait, because
mm,
until now, and it's been like 10 years, I'm still waiting because my course is not yet finished.
mm,
So yeah, I still go to courts every now and then. So
mm.
my next court will be like in August, the 20th. So that's when they will finally, that's my final hearing, finally. So
Wow.
my judge will be able to decide. So we'll see.
Wow, and would that mean that you are able to get citizenship, or like you're able to, like, what does it represent, the final
Hearing.
hearing? Yeah, what happened, what can they give you after that final hearing?
That's a good question. So
Mm,
for this, with this final hearing, pretty much the judge can say yes or no to your case. So what
mm,
happens is that if your judge says no, then obviously it means that you have to send back, or you have to be deported back to your country. If
mm,
she doesn't, you know, if she decline your case, pretty much. And but still, like if she deny you, you still have the option to appeal for it
okay.
afterwards if you want to. Otherwise, if you think like, okay, I'm okay to go home, you know, at this
Mm,
point, then yeah, they will deport you. And the other thing is that if she says yes, then yes, of course you're gonna get a green card right
mm,
away. And then it will take about like 5 years before you can apply for citizenship.
mm.
So yeah, I'll pray that whatever.
It's been a long,
Yes,
long wait.
yes, it is. I haven't seen my family for
Mm,
almost 10 years now. So yeah, I really hope that um the results from that hearing will be something that is good. And
Mm. So August, right? August is when the
yes,
hearing
it's
final.
August. Yeah, August the 20th. That would be my final hearing. That's like the first time I have my final hearing, because
Mm,
this whole time it's been like a master hearing. So if you go
mm,
through Asylum, it's like pretty much it's just only 2 hearings. You go for your master, and then after your master, your final. But then with COVID and everything else that happened, it's just like it's kind of like just keep postponing things.
mm.
That's how it just takes a long time. Plus, over here in the States, every immigration thing it just takes forever.
Yeah,
So includes asylum, of course. So yeah, I'm excited for final hearing, and hopefully it goes well.
I'm excited for you. I will remember that date, August 20. Okay, good, good.
I
So,
remind you.
um, wow. So, like you said, time flies. Time has passed. Um, it's been a long wait in terms of getting that final approval, getting the yes. Um, how is your healing process? You are a survivor of domestic violence. It's easy to say she's a strong woman, she's resilient, she's so, a big heart, has been fighting, she's a survivor. But how is the healing process going for you? Do you have access to resources to help, that have been able to help you each year that you've been there in the US? Or is it something that you're still trying to figure out?
That's good that you asked, and yeah, actually, I never tried before, and since I have this time, I might as well to share with you that they are currently doing a documentary film right now for the book. Yeah, we doing it for like about 2 years now, about 2 years now, and so yeah, so it's been exciting. It's been an exciting experience so far, and one of the things that we me and the I would say the team decided to include as part of that, and I'm so happy that they also think it's a good idea to kind of like include that part as part of my story, was the therapy.
Mm,
And it was a very different kind of therapy, because it's a dancing therapy.
mm,
It's more like, and I know like this is sounds very like far. When I first hear, I was like, wow, they have that kind of thing as well. Like all I know is like just therapy, like just you and therapist like just
mm,
talking. But this one is kind of more like interesting, and I guess because they know that I love dancing, and they're gonna try to find something that I enjoy, but at the same time it's helpful for me. And so yeah, I've been doing dancing therapy for about a year, or not, like about 9 months now.
mm.
And yeah, I would say, and I'm pretty sure this is like, wow, like Pacific Islander, I was like, I don't need a therapy. We don't have therapists. We don't need to talk to a therapy. So yes, it's really like an experience where it's like, wow, like, do I need to do this, or do I really need it?
Mm,
But speaking now that I went through that, I would say that was like, one of the best choices that I made, to be able to agree to meet the therapist, or the dancing therapist, because it really helped me so much. And I was like, the I was amazed at the fact that, we we like to call ourselves strong women, like you mentioned before, but still, there are things that you went through that sometimes you just don't realize that you still have those things until you actually talk about it. And that's really what happened to me when I started meeting with my dancing therapist. And this is more like how you use the movements of your body and try to connect with what you feel inside, which is, I would say, like, wow, this is very it's
mm,
amazing how it works. But it also involves like sharing exactly the things that you feel, and just to kind of remind yourself about those things and how it affects you right now. And if you still have those feelings, like what do you feel about it right now? Like even if it's already past,
Mm.
and so like yes, it's true. Like we're strong, but at the same time, there are so many things that we went through in our lives that sometimes it needs to be shared to someone else. And then at the same time, those things you just felt like, oh, I don't go through something, like I'm good, I'm okay, I'm happy. And I felt like maybe because you haven't really talked about it, that you don't know that you still have those pains like deep
Mm.
down inside. And by the time like you try to talk about it and just share it to someone else, someone that you feel comfortable, someone you trust, you just realize like, oh wow, I've been holding that pain, that trauma for me for a long time, that it was like, wow, when you started pouring out, you just realize like how painful those things are, and you've been carrying it with yourself for like such a long time. And I agree, like sometimes we do not realize like how we can hold on to these things even though we're not feeling it, at the
Mm.
moment, you know. And so for me, my healing process, including this dancing therapist, is really helpful because I really feel like it helps me in such a way that I realize that I feel like after I was going through these dancing therapy sessions, I felt so much like lighter. When you started to like really talk about those things, and share things that you actually feel from those trauma, from those experiences, that wow, like I really still have those pains. And
Mm.
while you're sharing it, you really realize like, wow, maybe I haven't really forgive this person, but really it's just because you've been holding on to those, painful experience with yourself that you don't even
Mm.
know you still have them. And it's for me, I would say, and this is just, I guess it's also like personal preference. Maybe some people, they might think, oh, like I don't really need therapy, like I'm okay right now. And I totally agree with them because that was like me before, right? After I was able to share, I completely feel like it makes a big difference on what I feel. I would say like personal like opinion as a Pacific Islander, I would say like therapist is just sound like it's a big thing and it's like a big deal, and it's only for people who cannot really deal with their lives and problems. But I would say, I hate
Mm.
to say this, but yes, I was wrong when I used to think that way because really, my therapy session really helped me so much with the things that I cannot do on my own, and even like the things that I feel like I cannot share it to my own family and friends to be because I feel like it's like I don't want to be a burden to them, I don't want to make them see me a different ways. But this person is like, it's like your safest. Maybe that's why like a therapist has to be someone that you don't know.
Mm.
I think it feels like more safe, and it just makes you feel like you don't have to feel bad about it. It's very different when you share with your family and friends than you're sharing with someone that, someone that is already have the knowledge, and not just that, but also like willing to really help you out to understand why you're going through that and why you're still having those, those painful experiences, even though you don't really realize that you still have it. So,
Mm. Yeah, thank you for sharing. I mean, thank you for sharing about your healing process, the ongoing healing process, the therapy, the dance therapy. I've never heard of dance therapy before, but knowing your love for dancing, like I see why that works for you. And I'm glad, like, it makes me happy to know that that works for you. And I'm even more so excited about the documentary. Like, you know, it's just so it's great to hear that there are things happening connected to this book, connected to not just your story, but those other the stories of your friends and their experiences, like you said, they often they're misunderstood. We just hear the story about how they crossed the border and then that's it, but no one truly understands the experience being inside and what led them to cross that border. So I think the media portrays only what they want to portray. So I think this is why I really was just patient. I was like, I'm going to be patient when you're ready, when the time is right to have you come on and share, parts of this journey. Um, and
Which
just
I'm
the,
grateful for, and I
yeah,
appreciate that. So thank you so much for for being
yeah.
able to wait patiently.
Like I said off camera, I've waited up to a year for other things. So I'm like, we are all good. So for anyone listening in, tuning in, there are links in the bio. You can purchase Grace's book. We're looking forward to this documentary coming out. You can connect to her website. There's a lot of information on there. Click on the links. You can connect with Grace through social media. She's got a YouTube channel. There's so much out there, fam. So if you are tuning in, go to the bio, click on those links, and get connected. Even more so, purchase the book if you can. If you can't purchase the book, share the book through your social media. Yeah, it's such. Read the book. Read the book. So important. Self-care, how do you look after yourself? You have work, you've got other projects and things you're working on, so how do you actually, besides your love for dancing, how do you take care of your health and well-being?
Yeah, which is, that's also another thing that if some people say like, do you regret your choice to stay there, and not coming back? I would say that that's one of the things that I would say I'm grateful that I stay
Mm,
here because of the things that I learned, which includes how I see health, and
mm,
fitness, and how I realize that, this is just, it's more than just like looking good, which I know it's a good thing about it, but really like how your health is very important, like it comes to your work, you want to feel good when you go to work,
mm,
because I know that when you're not feeling well, you're not feeling healthy, you're not feeling good about your body, it's just affect every other areas in your life that you're doing.
mm,
Like at work, it's just grumpy because you're not, obviously you're tired and you're not
mm,
healthy. And sometimes those energy, it's very easy to spread out to the people around you. And that's kind of the thing that I really try my best because obviously I'm I'm also, I would say I am so bad as well with my, when it comes to my diet and my food, with the things that I grew up eating, and I know that some of them they're really good and some of them they're not really good, but I
mm,
still doing it, obviously I don't really like have like this strict diets, but I try to like do the things that works for me and that I enjoy. I don't have to push myself doing it. And that's, obviously with Zumba, I started first with Zumba pretty much
mm,
when I first came. The first class that I took was Zumba class, and that's because it involves dancing and
mm,
music. It doesn't make me feel like I'm exercising,
yeah.
And then after that, I decided to, okay, I'm gonna try and push myself to try other exercises, and that's when I do steps. And now I just do, I'm blessed to have a gym right next to my room, which is made it so easier for me to do like just like home exercises,
Mm,
and it's just for me like just 5, 10, 15 minutes, it's when you do that, like, when you try to do it like at least consistently or maybe like 3 or 4 times a week, it really makes you feel good, just about yourself, but mostly just energize you to do the things that you want to do. Because in my case, I have to work like a lot of hours, to be honest. I work double shift most of the time
mm,
to afford my rent, my car, just a lot of other bills, and just staying trying to stay healthy is really the best choice that I made, and it's something that I come to like and enjoy that journey, like just to do exercises. And I would say it's it's true, it's not a normal thing because we don't have gym back home. We don't do exercise. When someone running, they be like, wow, where, like, what is she trying to do? It's like, it's so easy to criticize someone and just make a tease, that's like, we tease each other so much.
Mm,
And sometimes it's fun to do, but sometimes maybe that's why it just make us very conscious, like, oh, I don't want to do this because other people will tease me, my friends will tease me.
mm,
And because of that, we ended up not doing things that actually really good for us,
mm,
and now that I live here, I'm like, well, I'm so far away with my friends. They still make me fun of me,
mm,
sometimes they comment or they chat with me, like, just teasing me, but I'm like, I'm just gonna do whatever
mm,
whatever is good for me over here. So yeah, health or fitness training has been one of the good things that I try to really embrace and to try and be consistent with it, because it
mm.
really helps me to just feel good about myself, and also energized for the things that I have to do for my job, and just to enjoy life in general. So yeah.
That's good. We're at the part of we're just beginning to wrap up, but I do a segment book recommendations, and like I know that when you were writing the book, when you were writing your book, you had to do a lot of research you did research to kind of really understand, like, how have other people told, you know, their stories, like how have they shared their life experiences. And I was wondering, is there a book or something is that you want to share related to that process? Or I'll just put it out there. I'll let you think about it. I'll let you think about
Yeah.
it.
No, no, that's good. And yes, you're right. Those are the things that also, like, they really influence my decision on why I feel like I really need to write this book,
Mm,
because when I read those books, it made me realize, wow, these people going through so much, and the things that they have to do to overcome it. It's just like, it gives me hope when I was
mm,
inside, when I was going through my own strugglings and my own challenges in my own life. And from that experience, I was like, if this person that I never knew in my life and is going through like a very different situation as I do, but it's still like a challenge that he was able to overcome, it just gives me hope in a way that
mm,
I can do the same. And because of that, I felt like maybe that's why I need to write this book, because people doesn't have to experience the same experience that I did to be able to relate to me. But it's
mm,
just like knowing that whatever things, whatever challenge that might come their way, that they can actually overcome it, especially with my story and the thing that I really want to kind of put it out there about gratitude, that I
mm,
feel like it's really like a simple thing. And I think that's why a lot of people don't really do it, because they just feel like, how can this simple thing can really influence and affect my life in a very huge way, and that's why I really want to put it out there to make them feel, that this is simple, but it's really a rewarding experience if you start practicing it. So for me, the book that I would say that really helped me and give me a motivation to write my own story was like, Life Without Limits.
mm.
That was like the first book that I read, and I believe it's from. And I think I'm not sure if you know him. It's by Nick Voyage. I read, yeah, two of his book that I read, but Life Without Limits, that was like the first book that I read, and I was like, wow, like it made me see how sharing stories through a book in a very different way. Like, I
Mm,
felt like he has a voice that really gives me that hope that I need when I was going through my own situation. So that was the book that I read, Life
mm,
Without Limits. And he obviously, he was talking about totally different situation than
mm,
mine, than what I going through at that point, at that time, which is more a reason for me to write my story, so that
mm,
people doesn't have to. I feel like, okay, if this works for me, if this inspire me, that I still can have hope and I still can overcome my own trials in a positive way, then it might do the same thing for my story as well for people
Mm.
that might be able to read it. So yeah, that's the book. that's my
Yes.
that's my book recommendation that really helps me to influence my choice to write my story.
Oh, love that. Love that. Do you know when the documentary is coming out, or we're still working on it?
Right now they trying, or they're at least their plan to finish everything by 2025.
Hmm.
But we'll see.
That's
But
so exciting.
that's like their goal to be able to finish by 2025. So yeah. I'm
Wow.
excited for it, and I actually don't really look forward to see myself in it, but I'm still excited about, just the whole thing, the story and the things that and how they will be able to use, maybe my life and my experience to
Mm.
hopefully to be able to help or inspire people out there somewhere.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Just the last point before we close off our podcast, your faith journey. I know that, reading the book, you know, despite everything, all these trials and tribulations, all these barriers and challenges, and you've been knocked down many times, you've stepped back up, you've tried something else. There are all these like chapters to your journey so far, and it's a combination of like, oh, just it's very I did to be the fact that you're sitting here and we're able to chat about this is really like I don't even know what to say, but the faith part of your journey, can you share a little bit about that just before we
Yeah,
close
yeah,
off?
yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. And thank you. And yes, faith is really, like I mentioned earlier when we were talking about how my mom is really into Catholic
Mm,
Church, And so when I was 18, I converted to another church,
mm,
but growing, from that experience when I decided to join this church, it's just a time in my life where I really take serious of
mm,
my faith in God and really like the things that I can. It's how can you say? It's just like a time where I feel like how can I use my faith, like
mm,
just to use to help other people, but also like to help me grow like spiritually, And so
mm,
I've been blessed because I felt like this a lot of moments and a lot of times where I felt like this has happened because it's not because of me, but because of God, and or I was able to do this because of Him and because of His
mm,
help. And there's no way that I can do this on my own, And there's a lot of times where I just feel like I cannot do this anymore, Like
mm,
maybe I just have to give up, maybe that's the easiest way. But prayer has been, part of my life that I will always be grateful for. And also, like, it's one of the things that I realized that a lot of people do not know how to pray. When I was inside detention center, there's this woman. We always do our fellowship. Like during our yard, we do fellowship. And so this woman came over to me. It was like one night, and she was like, can you teach me like how to pray? And she's like an old lady, and I was like, it's just like, wow, like this thing is like we treat prayer as like, it's like it's a normal thing to do, and like everybody, knows how to do it, but eventually, it's not the same thing for everybody. And that's what I'm really grateful for, to have, to just to have a faith first,
mm,
and also like to see how faith in God really helps me in every part of my life. I would say like it's been a great influence in my life where sometimes I was like, okay, I don't know what's gonna happen, but okay, let's, God, if I have faith in Him, that He will be able to, to make it possible for me, and other than that, yeah, I'll just say that my faith in God is really one of the greatest blessing in my life. And I feel like He's been doing a lot of miracle things through, through that faith. And I know that for sure there's no way I can just face my trials in a very positive way without God in my life. So yeah.
Mm. Um, so before I'm just going to wrap us up, but before and then I'll hand it to you just to close us off with some final words. But I just want to say, Grace, thank you so much for um coming on the show. It's been a long time coming, and
Yes.
now is the right time. As you know, now is the perfect time. So thank you for your courage to share your journey, to share about your book. I'm so excited for the documentary. All the best of the launch that's coming up in a few days.
Thank you.
All the best. You know, in a few months, you will have your final hearing. I'll be in touch, and yeah, just wishing you all the best. I'll let you wrap up the show with just the final word of encouragement. Yeah.
Thank you, and thank you so much. And yeah, if there's one thing that that is always, or like there's like a quote or something that always helped me,
Mm,
if, or maybe not a quote, but it's just a phrase that I always felt like it always comes in hand when I feel like I cannot do this anymore. This is too much. But I realized that um, the power of our choice, that our choice is very powerful, that it can actually create the kind of emotion, the kind of life that we want to experience, regardless of the things that happen around us. And so this is actually a quote from Charles Swindoll, and
mm,
it was about attitude. And he says, in this quote, he says, I might forget, or I might forget this quote, but it says something about, he says like, uh, something about, I really like, he's okay. I'm just gonna make it short, but he says like, I am convinced that what happens to me in life is only 10%, and
mm,
90% is how I react to it. And that's how we take control of our lives. We focus more on our choice to react to things that happen in our lives. And so
mm,
with just that phrase, or this, just short quote, it helps me to kind of remind myself that I do have a choice,
mm,
even though I'm going through this stuff and I'm surrounded by these people that maybe they just have like, they complain so much about life, or they say things that, it's just not the things that I want to surrounded by. I try to remind myself, like, I always, you're always in a position to make a choice on how you react to those things. It's your situation they're going through, or the people around you, have nothing to do with what you're going to have emotionally, or mentally, if
mm,
you know how powerful your choice is, which is true. Your choice is very powerful, and you can just, the more you understand about that, the more you can at least take control of what you can control, and not to waste your energy and life
mm.
on the things that you actually cannot control. So yeah.
Great. Amazing. You are amazing. And thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Rosa, for your time. I really appreciate this opportunity. And wow, it's like an hour and a half, and I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I'm sorry to give you this long, but thank you
No,
so much for just
you're fine.
such a good, yeah, it's just a great listener. And it's just, yeah, you're so good. And yeah, this is what I'm supposed to do. It just made me feel comfortable and feel good about myself. And yeah, it just made it so easy for me to share. So thank you.